Hello, everyone. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Walker. Thank you so much for tuning in. Another very busy weekend is now in the books. I hope everyone had a great time running. It's beautiful outside. We're in March, almost to mid-March. We're lucking out here in our area. I hope you are in yours as well, as the weather has just been splendid. Before we really jump into anything, I want to make sure to throw out there, from the time of this recording, which is March 11th, you have 10 days left if you want to throw your name in for the New York City Marathon. The lottery is still taking people. It is open for 10 more days. It closes on March 21st, and the drawing for the lottery is on March 28th. So we will know on March 28th if any of us made it to the New York City Marathon. So if that is something big and important to you, and again, you have heard what I think of this race, you've heard it a lot. Big fan. If you want to do it yourself, then definitely get your name in the lottery for the New York City Marathon. So that's coming up. Secondly, touched on it very briefly last week. Okay. We are in Little Rock. We did the Little Rock Marathon. And I mean, honestly, that was such a great event and we all had such a great time. It was really kind of hard to come down from that event. And I know that a lot of the people that I went down there with are feeling the same thing. It's like, whew, we're finally kind of starting to get back in the groove now that that whole experience is getting a little farther in the rear view mirror, but it was a difficult one. And if you guys don't believe it, I did an episode about this after Boston last year. But after a full marathon or after something that you have just looked forward to for so long, there is a bit of a letdown and a disappointment, and even, dare I say, a depression once that event has come and gone. Then it's like, okay, well, what do I do now? And so we touched on it then, so I'm not going to go back over it, but it's definitely a thing. So if you were a Little Rock person, or if very recently you kind of fulfilled a very big dream of yours in the running world, if you do feel a little disappointed or depressed about it, or a little kind of, like a ship without a rudder, what do I do? It's natural. It's okay. Yeah, don't feel bad because it happens to all of us once we do one of those really big races that we had always dreamed of doing. So give yourself a break. You will find a new goal. You will find that next big thing that really piques your interest, kind of sets you on fire. You will find that. So just be ready for it. But last week was our 100th podcast episode. And again, barely touched on it because we were talking about Little Rock. But I want to thank everyone for 100 episodes of this podcast. It has been a wonderful ride. It has been super duper fun. And I can't thank everyone enough for all their love and support over the last 100 episodes. Now, this past weekend, the one we just got done with, we had two races that we had to do. We had the Westport St. Patrick's Day 4 miler, not two, four. You'll see why the number two is in my head here in a second. And then we had the Beard Run on Sunday, which we will cover that here in a minute. First, Westport St. Patrick's Day 4 miler. The reason two was in my head, that was the 2 year anniversary for this podcast. So I think that's pretty good. 2 years, 100 episodes. We did not take too many off weeks over the last 2 years. So, again, another huge thank you to everyone who has been suffering with us. No, hopefully you don't suffer listening to this, or I would tell you not to, but who's been with us for the last 2 years, the people who've been with us from the start, the people who are just discovering the podcast. I want to thank you all so very much for coming along on this fun little ride. Again, I get to come on here and talk about running, which is something that I love to do. I get to go and talk to other people about running, which is something that I love to do. I get to talk to races about running, which has been super fun. And so I am very fortunate to be able to do this, and I'm fortunate that you guys like listening to it. And so hopefully we can continue on for 100 more episodes and 2 more years and plus and beyond and all that good stuff. So hopefully we just keep right on trucking. But the Westport St. Patrick's Day 4 miler is now behind us, a race that a lot of us have done many times over. It's a good race. I like this race. I was going into it with very tired legs, having been 6 days removed from a full marathon. And like an idiot, last week on Sunday, we did Little Rock Marathon, rested Monday, traveled back from Arkansas back to Kansas City, got the podcast episode out. Tuesday night, my men's soccer team needed me because it was a championship game. We needed all our players there. So 2 days after a full marathon, I was back on the indoor soccer pitch trying to help my team win a league championship, which we did. Very little, if no credit goes to me, as I just kind of occupied space and did my usual soccering things. Thankfully, as my voice gives out on me there, thankfully the legs didn't feel too bad. So I wasn't a detriment to the team. That was good. That was good. I didn't do any of the scoring, but I never do. And so I was just there for my defensive purposes and then my hustle. I can at least hustle around there. It's like I run marathons or something. It's ridiculous. But anyway, then we only had a couple days to rest and we were in Westport for the 4 miler. 4 miler went great. I actually set a new PR for 4 mile races. I don't know how that happened, but it did. I actually ran a pretty decent race. In this area, we have kind of the Sweet 16 series. It's a 4 race series every year. I don't always do all 4, but there is a history in this area of 4 mile races between the Zoo Run and the Westport St. Patrick's Day 4 miler. And let's see, what are the other ones involved? Oh, 4 on the 4th and Trolley Run. If you do enough of those over the years, your 4 mile, category, if you keep track of your times, that goes up. So this was a part of that. This was one of the 4 mile races, one I've done a lot, and it's a good course. Now I hear they're going to change the course next year, so that's kind of cool. We'll see if it's better. We'll see if it's worse. See if we like it. See if we don't. But going to Westport is always fun. After the race, a lot of people stayed at Kelly's Inn in Westport for a celebratory drink to the 2 year anniversary of the Back of the Pack podcast. So thank you to everyone who came out. Thank you to our buddy Cody who brought us a cake. So we had cake because you can't have a party without cake. Duh. And thank you to Amanda who got our table reserved for us. I told the fast people when they got done with the race to get into the place and get us a table. The fast people did that. And so I chose correctly because we had a great spot and everyone was able to come in and enjoy either cake and a beverage, just a beverage, whatever you might have done. There was also pizza. I didn't even have pizza. I should have had pizza. Pizza's always a good thing, but we enjoyed that. And so 2 years, 2 years. That's awesome. I'm it makes me very happy that this has been a small bit of successful for 2 years now. So thank you to everyone. Now, the next race was the Beard race, but we're going to get there in a minute because we have a question that keeps popping up a lot as of late. We're getting a lot of new listeners, which I love, and thank you all so much. A lot of people are going back through previous episodes to kind of catch up on where we've been over the last 2 years and 100 episodes, which is great. But I'm getting this question over and over again. So for the newer people, I just wanted to address this real fast. There is definitely back in the fall of 2023 a change in tone or a change in presentation of this podcast. So for those who didn't know, we were with a small teeny tiny production company at the beginning. So we had someone else who was editing our podcast and was kind of doing their thing. We had a different logo, different entrance music, different kind of really a different vibe and a feel. And you would hear that person from time to time on the show. In late September, early October, whatever it was, 2023, that situation ended through a very messy divorce. Things changed. But what happened was with the termination of the agreement with the former production company, we took everything we could of this podcast. We didn't get everything in the divorce, and we brought it all in-house. So it is all right here in my little arms because I am now host, producer, editor, creator, writer, director, whatever of the podcast. That's all here. Although Mrs. Back of the Pack podcast did do all the logo design work. So I give her credit whenever possible because it keeps me out of trouble. But yeah, so that is why there's just kind of a change, especially if you're right around late September, early October of last year. We brought everything in. People say it's better. It's and again, I'm not throwing stones as much as I would like to sometimes, but it's just a different feel. It's a very different thing. There is now no one who can tell me no, which is great, which means I can do whatever I want, which is even better. And so I've been doing more of the things that were previously maybe disagreed with when we were trying to scheme ways to make this podcast work before. Now, if I have an idea, I just roll with it, and some of them work, some of them don't. But I think our growth since becoming our own thing has really kind of proven that a lot of these ideas were mildly decent and they're working well. So that is why there's the change in tone. Why I bring that up now, other than it's been a question, is one of the big issues that led to the divorce was the former producer, and just a comment that was made to me one time, and it still sits wrong with me. And this weekend is exactly why. I was told that this wasn't their community, the running community. The running community wasn't their community. It wasn't their world. These weren't their people. And that always bothered me because anyone who has been in the running community, and I mean, not just the Kansas City running community, although that's the one that is nearest and dearest to me, but I think any running community around the country, you know that the moment you show up, the moment that you enter that community, you're in it. And you are automatically loved and respected for who you are and where you are in your running journey, whether that be elite level runner to back of the pack runner to I've never laced up a pair of running shoes, but yet I'm here. Maybe I'm going to walk. Maybe I'm going to observe. Maybe I'm going to meet people. Maybe I'm working on my courage to take those few steps forward because trust me, it's not easy and it's not without its sense of dread and its sense of gee, I mean, you've got kind of a sense of self. You might be worried about what people think of you. You might be worried about what, what others would see as you're trucking up and down the sidewalk. But the moment you enter this community, it is one of the greatest communities that you will ever step foot in. And for me, it's the Kansas City running community. For the Kansas City running community, before they had the Back of the Pack podcast, they had Scott. They had Scott Green, who we've talked about before. And this surprised a lot of people. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, straight up Scott Green and I have never had a conversation. I have never talked to that guy. We have exchanged knowing glances. He knows of me. I know of him. Our paths just never crossed. But I know the importance that he has had in this running community in Kansas City. I know how big of a piece of the picture he was in a lot of people's running journeys. And for that, if nothing else, I have much admiration and much respect for Scott. This weekend we had the Beard Run. The Beard Run, as you can see, I'm wearing the shirt. This is Scott's run. Now, for those who didn't know, Scott was diagnosed with cancer back in May of 2023. He was only supposed to live a few months. We're almost a year, and he's still there. He is still here, I should say, and he is still completing races. It is now with help. It is now a huge event, but his lifetime goal was to make it to 300 races. And I can say now that I personally got to witness Scott finish his 300th race. We had the Beard Run yesterday, which was his 300th race. He was pushed across the finish line by friends and family, and all of us lining the finisher chute to cheer him on as he finished. The race itself was a race. I did a 5K. I've done 5Ks. I've done a lot of 5Ks. But the emotional, I don't know, effort that we all had to put in that race, I think was far more than the physical because that was a very heavy morning. As I said to someone else there, it was a very wonderfully tragic morning. It was wonderful that we could celebrate Scott and that he could be there for his 300th race and they'd finish his 300th race. Tragic because we know the situation around it. I have personally lost two people in my life, just two, and for some it might be more. I've lost two people in my life who were very, very dear to me to cancer. And I would love very much right now to go on a profanity laced tirade on how I feel about this particular issue about cancer. I'll keep all my conspiracy theories about big pharmaceutical and the cancer community. I'll keep all that to myself, although I certainly have my own opinions and they're not good towards anyone that never mind. I won't go there. I won't go. I just won't. But it really was an emotional morning for me. And I know it was for a lot of people, for the people who actually know Scott, for the people who were introduced into this running world because of Scott, people like our buddy Cody, people like former ambassador Amy. And I say former ambassador Amy because we don't do the ambassador thing anymore. That was the former production company's idea. But our good friend Amy, I know there are so many people who are in this running world because of Scott Green. And like I said, for that, I'm eternally grateful. So yesterday's morning, the Beard Run, everyone was out there, a great turnout. It was a great turnout, and honestly, you couldn't have asked for a more beautiful morning. Sure, it was a little cool. Big whoop, it's March, but there wasn't a cloud in the sky. The sun was shining. It was beautiful in Shawnee Mission Park. And so everyone was there, everyone in green, wearing either the race shirt, which is what I'm wearing now, or the shirts that we had made when Scott first got sick, which that's what I was wearing, but everyone was in green, green head to toe, and it was awesome to see. Everyone I know from the Kansas City running community was out there. Like I can't think of a single person that wasn't there. Everyone was there. And I'm going to give big shout out and everyone knows who I'm talking about. And Brad, I'm talking about you. But this race was put on by one company The race director for a competing company was at this race, who put aside promotional company differences because he wanted to be there for Scott and he wanted to volunteer to serve any purpose that he could or any help that he could for that event, not even being his event, but to do that for Scott. That speaks volumes of Scott Green and the running community in Kansas City, that people are willing to put aside a lot in order to rally around this one person. And if you've ever wondered if a person can make a difference, then you had no further to look than yesterday's race, with hundreds and hundreds of people there to celebrate one man and one man's accomplishment. And so it was great. And this of course made me think of my friends who I had lost, Sarah Ray and Shani Stoll, both people I love dearly, who were taken from us exceedingly too early due to cancer. Now, this leads me to another race that I want to kind of point you guys to. On April 28th is the Get Your Rear in Gear 5K. It is for colon cancer. It is near and dear to my heart because that's how we lost my good dear friend Shani. So it is the day after Top City, but it's a 5K. It's in Zona Rosa, which is kind of by the airport in Kansas City, Missouri. If anyone is looking for a way to, again, continue in this joint fight against cancer, and really, trust me, y'all, we are fighting against cancer every day in every way that we can. But I want to point you guys in the direction of the not going the distance, sorry. That's a different race, equally important, but different race. Point you in the direction of the Get Your Rear in Gear 5K, again, on April 28th. There is, you can choose your teams. You can choose Team Shaney if you would like. There is not a Back of the Pack podcast team because, like yesterday's Beard Run, where there was no podcast gear on me, there probably won't be either for that race. That race is for Shaney. Yesterday was for Scott, and I can certainly differentiate between, a yay fun podcast race or a race with much bigger purpose, life altering purposes like these, that really, and the thing about the Get Your Rear and Gear 5K is they are all about early detection, know what's going on with your body. Colon cancer, it is a son of a gun, and early detection is the best thing that you can do for it. And so I just want to make sure that everyone is aware. There are people and entities out there that are helping in these fights. They of course need more awareness. They need funds if at all possible. But just like we did the Beard Run for Scott, let's look at the Get Your Rear and Gear 5K for colon cancer to, again, increase awareness, increase their ability to kind of spread the word and get out there in the world and in the community. They travel around to different races or different cities and do different races around the country. So let's please get out there and support them if at all possible. So I know that was not in the 2024 preview episode. That's one that I just kind of dropped on us. They actually just released the date last week. Usually they do it in September. They're not doing it in September this year. They're doing it in April. I don't care. Do it whenever you want. And yes, it's the day after half marathon. Doesn't really matter. I'll be there anyway. Because if I'm playing soccer 2 days after a full marathon, I imagine I could do a 5K the morning after a half marathon, right? I mean, that seems to make sense to me. Sure, we're gonna go with that. So anyway, next week, what do we have coming up? Next week, we only have a 5K. Can you guys believe that? It feels like all we've done are halves and fulls lately, and or back-to-back weekends like we did this weekend. Then next week is just a 5K. We're at the St. Patrick's Day 5K in Overland Park, Kansas. And then after that, it begins. The Heartland 39.3 Half Marathon Series begins on the 23rd of March, and that is with the Liberty Half Marathon and 5K. They do have the 5K there. If you are going to Liberty, and you have to go up there the day before to get your packet, right? Right. Well, back at the Liberty Expo this year, just like last year, will be the table for the Back of the Pack podcast. So I hope anyone who hears this will come out there and say hello to me as I work the table all day. I know it's not quite going to be the same as Little Rock. It's not going to be a 2-day expo with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people coming through, but it is going to be all of us local runners who are ready to challenge ourselves with that Liberty half marathon, because that race is no freaking joke, man. But yes, it's on Friday, the 22nd of April, March. Boy, can't talk today. And so I would want you guys to please all come out and come visit me at the table while you're getting all your stuff for Liberty. If you need to go backwards a couple weeks, go find the interview that we did with Julie of Liberty Half. Okay, look, I'm going to call it what it is because everyone's going to wonder why I keep messing up the name. I am so used to when it was called the Liberty Hospital Half. I was just so used to saying those all together. Liberty Hospital Half. It is not. It is the Liberty Half Marathon. I've got to say this correctly, but I'm just telling you because we're friends here as to why I keep flubbing this name. So come do the Liberty Half, come to the Liberty Half Expo and visit yours truly at the Back of the Pack podcast table. So that's really it. There really was not going to be any big message today. I just want to throw out there just my love for all you guys in the Kansas City running community, guys and gals. After the trip to Little Rock, I really feel a lot closer to a lot of the group that went with me. And I know a lot of them feel the same way. And then at yesterday's race, it just re-emphasized to me just how wonderful our group is. And the fact that someone would say, these aren't my people, this isn't my group. Oh boy, that gets me every time. Every time I think about it now, I laugh because I've never met a better group of people, a more understanding group of people, a group of people that want to see everybody succeed, no matter your ability level in this running world, even outside this running world. Like we talk about things now that are outside of running. We talk about family and faith and friends and kids and jobs and just life in general, all the stuff that face us on a day-to-day basis. And we've got a group of people who are all there willing to help you with whatever has come up. And it is a wealth of knowledge of people who have been through everything in life who, if you haven't faced it, maybe they have. And maybe they've got something they can share with you to help you along your path. So it's this network of running in Kansas City is huge. And I hope it's just as big wherever you are. I'm sure that it is because everywhere I go now, people talk about the strength of their running community, and it just makes me so happy. So happy that there are runners out there willing to help each other through thick and thin, all aspects of life. And so it's it really is it's very touching. Again, doing everything I can on this episode to keep myself composed because I didn't yesterday. Yesterday at the Beard Run, that was difficult. I was so glad to be there. I was so glad to see Scott cross the finish line. But like everyone else, just the overwhelming waves of emotion after he crossed, they just came kind of crashing down, and I had to excuse myself from the situation as memories of my friends that I've lost came flooding back into my mind, and I'm sure everyone else was kind of the same way. So I know this is kind of a subdued episode. They're not all just me bouncing off the walls, which honestly, my legs are so tired. There is no bouncing off the walls today or for the next few days because, man, I am beat. So we had, just going backwards, we had Vegas, we had the 5K half marathon. Fast forward the next weekend to Little Rock, we had 5K full marathon. Fast forward to this past weekend, 4 miler, 5K. Been a lot of running. Sprinkle in, do the little Salt Bay thing. Yeah, I'm going to sprinkle in a little men's indoor soccer in between. And then this week I might have to go out and play some men's softball. So never a dull moment for yours truly. Apparently I am a glutton for punishment. But just to kind of wrap it up, everyone, thank you so much for 100 episodes. This one now 101. Thank you very much for 2 years of support. It has been honestly my pleasure to get up and do this every week. I really take a lot of joy in being able to do this. And of course, the joy in going out and meeting new people and seeing old friends and connecting with everyone that I can within the running community in Kansas City and beyond. And so I hope that we can do more. Remember, if you want to help this show grow, all you have to do is, well, our main social media platform is Facebook. So on Facebook, like the episodes, share the episodes, comment on the episodes, play along with the stuff that we post during the week. Every interaction you give this podcast is helpful. Facebook actually had to pay us money. I made a whole $3 off of Facebook monetization. Let's go. $3, baby. Over in the podcast world, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcasts, it's all great. Please feel free to leave a review. Reviews are always helpful in growing the podcast. And then just, hey, word of mouth, man. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell anyone who will listen how much you enjoy the Back of the Pack podcast. And that is how we grow. So thank you very much from me to all of you. Even a thank you to the contributions of our former production company way back when. 2 years, 100 episodes. What more can you do? So I appreciate it. I've been your host. I'm Kyle Walker. That's me. I've been called worse, but thank you from me to you. Everyone have a great week of training, and we will see you next week.